Hello, everybody.
Howdy.
Hey, Jordan, how are you, man?
Good.
Good. Happy Wednesday afternoon. It is Wednesday, right?
I thought it was Friday this morning, but it is Wednesday. Yeah.
Man, bummer it's not Friday, huh? These things all just kind of blend together sometimes, But happy Wednesday afternoon to everybody. Thank you for joining Jordan, Boogaard, and myself here on this segment of TechBeat. We're super honored and happy to have you with us. Quickly, a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, we will have Q&A throughout the hour here if you've got questions, or towards the end of the hour. So whatever platform you're joining us from, feel free to throw any questions or comments you might have in the comment sections of that platform. And Jordan and I will do our best to keep an eye on that throughout the hour and address those things that are relevant. Yeah, let's interact, ask some questions and stuff. My name is Earl Foote. I am founder, CEO of Nexus IT Consultants. We actually will be 23 years old in a couple of weeks, Jordan. Founded in September of '98, so we're almost 23 years old, and we're an outsourced. Yeah, it's been a little while, man. Been a little while. We are an outsourced IT support firm and cybersecurity firm based here in northern Utah and servicing a nationwide footprint and beyond. Today, my esteemed guest is Jordan Boogaard. I'm going to come back around and introduce you a little bit to Jordan. But quickly, just wanted to mention to keep an eye out. I've got some upcoming episodes of TechBeat coming up here with Ross McGarvey, the CEO of Event 8. If you've ever met Ross, you know that hour is going to be full of a barrel of laughs. He's Scottish, and he every time I'm around that guy, he makes me belly laugh, as hard as I possibly can. So that'll be a fun hour. Stephanie Page, the director of Clean Start LLC, will be joining me, as well as Ashley Heather, the CEO of Clear to 4. That's a really cool technology that Ashley and his team have put together just since COVID. It's actually a screening technology for venues so that, they can kind of verify that people are healthy before they walk into a venue. So like a lot of the major, NBA, NFL stadiums and stuff like that are using Clear to 4's technology. So I'm excited to have Ashley on in the coming weeks. Let's get around to the man of the hour, Jordan Boogaard. I always want to say your last name, Boogaard, man.
He has 2 O's and 2 A's in the last name.
Yeah. So my friend Jordan is married to his beautiful wife, Erica. Together they have 4 kids. He loves spending time with his family. And when not with them or working, you can find him on the mountain bike trail. Jordan is passionate about working with small and mid-sized businesses and helping them to manage their employees and get them paid on time. Jordan has been in the payroll and HR space for 12 plus years. He ran ADP's small business division in Utah, opened 3 states for Heartland Payroll, opened his own payroll company, and now has merged with Eddie HR about 2 years ago. So welcome, Jordan.
Thank you. It's as Chick-fil-A would say, it's my pleasure, right?
Yes, man. It's my pleasure to have you with me this hour here. I'm so glad that you're here. So tell us a little bit about yourself as, let's go back to Jordan as a kid, up through where you kind of entered into your professional life. Just help us get to know you a little bit better.
So I grew up in Sandy, Utah. I was a beet digger, so go beet diggers. If you're from Utah, you know that school well, but graduated in '99. And then from there, I served an LDS mission for my church, went to Ecuador and spent 2 years there. Really cool being able to learn that language and getting to know those people and just building a love for them. From there, I went to school. I went to UVU, graduated in business management. And to be honest with you, I never even thought about doing payroll HR. Like, it wasn't on the horizons at all. I mean, when I was a kid, probably 14, 15 years old, I had a neighbor that I truly looked up to. And I'm like, that guy, he travels, he's got a nice house, he spends time with his family, he's living the dream. What does he do for a living? And so I asked him one day, and he did medical sales. And so I fell into the payroll and HR space because as I was getting ready to graduate from UVU, I researched those companies that that kind of go after for medical device, because I didn't have a background in medical whatsoever, but they want that like kind of hardcore B2B. So Paychex, ADP, Cintas, and so with that being said, I end up getting a job at ADP and crushing it for a couple years there and managing the team, and actually went and did medical sales for 2 companies. Both of them got bought out, one for a mere 144 billion. But no, that's the route that I kind of always wanted to go. But like I said, I kind of fell into the payroll and HR space. So I don't know how deep do we want to go?
Tell us how you went from college student to ADP, and getting into the payroll HR space to becoming an entrepreneur and opening up your own company. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, good question. So when I was a kid, my dad is a entrepreneur to the T, right? He's one of those just hardworking guys. Didn't really have a huge education. He went to high school and stuff like that. But I think he spent about a year in college and decided it wasn't for him. But he built up multiple companies. He did a furniture company called SofaBiz that's still around these days. He opened up a floor cleaning company. And so when I was 13 years old, my dad opened a floor cleaning company, and we clean like Smith's, Rite Aids, you name it, just any grocery store from Payson to Ogden. So that's what truly taught me how to work hard, because those stores, you have to clean them before they open, right? Or clean them after they close. So I was up at 4:30, 5 o'clock most mornings, cleaning the stores before they opened. And then at night, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock when they'd shut down, we'd show up and start cleaning the floors till 11 or 12. And so ever since I was a little kid, I was kind of used to getting up at the crack of dawn. And I remember one time my dad, it was like, I think I was 14 years old. And my dad's like, hey, you know what? My guy didn't show up, and he wakes me up at 1 o'clock in the morning. He's like, you got to go clean the store. I'm like, I'm 14. It's in Sugar House. I'm like scared to go there with you, let alone go there by myself. But I got forced into it. And I was cleaning the store from 1 o'clock in the morning till 6 a.m. And so, I mean, anyways, tangent, but no, it truly taught me how to work hard and what entrepreneurs do, and that it doesn't matter what happens in your day. If you're running a company and you have expectations by your clients that you're working for, you got to get down there and do it. I'm sure with IT, you experience that on a regular basis. If something shuts down or someone hacks something or someone does something, you got to jump up and make it happen, whether it's 4 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning. So the reason I share that's kind of what got me into that entrepreneur spirit and helped me realize that I want to do that one day. But to be honest with you, I was too big of a chicken, right? Like I went to work for the big companies, thought out, I'll do this, I'll do that. And so when I was at ADP, again, I was striving to get in that medical sales device, right? And so to make a long story short, once I got done and saw that those 2 companies got bought out, I had the opportunity to go back to payroll through a company called Heartland Payroll and HR. And they had recruited me to open up 3 states. And before I did, I thought, you know what, this is an opportunity to build something from scratch. So it's kind of like being an entrepreneur, right? It's, building up a team, it's recruiting.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my first venture into it. But then as I was there for a number of years, there was a company I had partnered with and worked with a ton that was an insurance broker. And I had given a bunch of deals to them. My team was working with them. And so we'd been pushing leads back and forth. And there was an individual sales rep that he went from making like $80K a year to like 120, 130,000 like 3 or 4 months. And so to go that fast in that space was just kind of unheard of. And so he's like, how what did he get from this fast and grow his revenue by 40, 50K in annual salary, And so the owner, the insurance broker, kind of dove in and realized that the leads were coming from me. And so he took me to lunch one day after he had been stalking me for a while. And one lunch, 2-hour meeting, we get done and he's like, hey, I've been stalking you for a while. I want to start a payroll company. You're my guy. And that's kind of how the journey began. So he kind of funded everything and said, you know what, I'll pay for it and I'll support you, but you're going to do it all. You're going to hire the employees. You're going to build the tech stack. You're going to figure out how to service them, and you're going to have to bring in all the clients and do the sales. And so that's kind of my long-winded story of how I got into being an entrepreneur, man.
So that's a pretty big change, going from being employed, at HR payroll companies,
Yeah.
and some medical device sales, more sales related, to making the jump suddenly into, I'm going to be a founder, I'm going to build and run this company. So what are some of the biggest maybe challenges that you had there, that you had to face in that process?
Yeah, so I mean, I just kind of just preface it a little bit. I mean, I think what helped prep me to get to that point was in the payroll and HR space. I mean, if you're doing it right and you're asking the right questions, you get super consultative, right? So you're going from like hire to fire, cradle to grave, whatever you want to call it. And so you're going as deep as you can, understanding how the hiring process works, how they're managing employees, how they're terminating them, how they're administering benefits. Does that map over to their accounting system? And so as I was doing that, like I had instructed and talked to companies, but like I was kind of a fraud because I'd never done it myself, right? I just talked to other companies and heard how they did it and found out what worked best, and then I kind of instruct them on. But now was the point where I had to put on my big boy pants and figure out, I got to do this myself, right? And so I would say the scariest thing was just making decisions that I wasn't used to making. So yes, we should use QuickBooks for our accounting. Yes, after reviewing 30 payroll software that we could white label because we weren't going to build our own at that time, which one's the best? Like, okay, this is like 50 grand up front. Like, this is a big decision. Like, I had to make those decisions. And so I would say that was one of the hardest things, was like being that key decision maker that had to make that decision that was going to impact the rest of your business, the rest of your employees, and just huge decisions that scared me. So
I get that totally, man. In the early days, particularly of entrepreneurship, when you have so much riding on the line, you have your own livelihood, your family's livelihood, probably the livelihood of employees, the viability of your business, you can think your business with some decisions, right? And so I remember some of those decisions just being grueling and like taking forever, and over analyzing everything, for days and weeks and months on end, before pulling the trigger on stuff. And I think, you get to trust your intuition further. Obviously, you get to trust data, more, particularly in modern business now. You trust data a lot more than when I got into business 23 years ago. Not that we didn't trust data, but you just didn't have all the platforms to gather, all the data that you do now.
Sure, you can compile it into one place and like do it. So.
Yeah, you didn't have, dashboards and everything to kind of help you, get keen insights into your business and really understand what's happening. So I remember that, man, and I remember making some bad decisions as well. So tell us maybe, the worst decision you made as an entrepreneur, and how you recovered from it.
I'm trying to think the worst decision I made. I don't want to throw any companies or names under the bus, so I'll be politically correct. But I think honestly, I when I selected the software, I went for kind of all the bells and whistles. And I mean, we were a local company in Utah. We were targeting like the small to mid-size, so really under 100 employees. And I bought almost an enterprise solution. And so that cost up front and the continual cost moving forward was super expensive, and it was a big liability for a company, right? If you're trying to become profitable and make sure your P&L is balanced and everything's good, to buy something so expensive up front and then have continual overhead cost on that, I think it was kind of a fail on my end, to be honest with you. I think I could have gotten away with a more simplistic system that still would have serviced the customers accurately, because as I worked at ADP and Heartland and started my own company, you come to realize, and this is me being probably too transparent, but the industry is commoditized, right? So as long as you have the simplistic functions and you can have the capabilities to service the clients with, you don't need as robust of software. You need something that's easy to use and simple. And so sometimes that more robust software messes you up more than it helps you. And so I would say that was one of the key things that I did. But we pivoted. We end up selling and merging with Eddie, and we're building out our own proprietary software. And so I would say kind of recovering from that was that we are building it towards that direction, right? We're using a really simple platform. We found the best, if not the world-class, engineers, stealing from Ancestry.com, our CTO, a bunch of our senior level engineers, and they're like a more consumer-based software instead of business-based. And so it's really clean. So when you get into Eddie, I mean, whether you've used it or not, you could jump in there and kind of figure it out within minutes. And so I wish I would have gone that direction. And now that we're pivoting towards that, clients are not even like talking to us. They're just seeing a demo and they're saying, let's sign up. So I would say that's kind of how it's been saved, but it wasn't 100% through me, but it's a decision that I made that fortunately is turned into a good one now. So
fantastic. And by the way, Eddie's an awesome platform. Our team loves it. I know it's helped us, significantly in the recruiting process. All the documentation and automation of recruiting, and then transitioning that into onboarding new employees, and all the onboarding training portions, and of course managing payroll and benefits and all that kind of stuff. It's been really great. We've enjoyed it a lot. So it's not always super common for a founder to merge with another company and then stay on long term with that company. But you've done that. You went from having your own business to merging with another company a couple of years ago, and now as the president of sales at Eddie. Tell us a little bit about that kind of process and journey. What's it been like? What have you learned? What are the pros? What are the cons?
Sure. Honestly, I mean, as you just stated that, it's obvious, right? Like typically a company that buys or merges it with another company, the founder never stays on, right? And so I think maybe that's because like my co-founder, the individual that I built the company with, is we bought him out, right? And when Eddie bought my company, yes, they wanted a payroll team, one, because Eddie didn't have payroll yet. And so they wanted someone to service, someone to understand it, but then they wanted me to help them build it out. And so I think they sold me on the vision of being a part of their team and a part of their journey, and becoming a founding member of Eddie. That's what kind of sold me on being willing to sell my company and merge with them. Because I mean, to be honest with you, I had the vision of, hey, let's spend the next 8 to 10 years. I'm going to bust my tail, do whatever it takes to get my company profitable. I'll get to the point where I'm making several $100,000 a year or whatever the number is. And then I can manage it from afar, working 10, 15 hours a week, and do some angel investing and things like that. Like that was my plan. That was my vision, right? And obviously that's not what happened because Eddie sold me. And so I met with, so our founder, if you don't, I'll tell you a little story. I mean, Travis Hansen, he's kind of a local legend in Utah. Played basketball at BYU, went pro, played for the Hawks, went to Europe, played for 10 years, won some championships. I mean, he just crushed it. And so he came back, and he's sitting down with the founder of New Skin, Blake Roney, and he's like, "Hey, Trav, what do you want to do, man?" He's like, "Well, what's your vision? What are you gonna do next?" He's like, "Honestly, I just want to help people." And so Blake's like, "Well, the most charitable thing you can do is to start a business, because it gives people purpose, it gives them a paycheck, it gives them a skill set." And he just went down this entire list. And so when Travis told me that story and just talked about how passionate he was about helping other people, I saw that within him and trusted him and saw what he had done. And that's kind of what sold me on the vision of coming over to Eddie and being a part of that team and being a founding member. And so, again, I guess I'm long-winded, but I always
these are great
to share stories with that, because that's what truly brought me to the point where I'm like, yeah, I want to be a part of that and build something even bigger for these small mid-sized businesses that blatantly get the shaft when it comes to HR tech, because the Workdays, the Namelys, the big enterprise solutions, which are phenomenal products, they're just not affordable for a 20 or 30 or 50 point employee company. And so to build something that is affordable and easy to use, but super functional and does all the things that it needs is pretty cool. So
yeah, no, that's fantastic. I get that 100% as well. Being a 23-year entrepreneur, and a guy who I have a creative side to me. I've got these guys behind me that help me kind of tap into that. But certainly there are amazing visionaries out there who have really significant ideas. And visionaries, ideas type of people, founders, oftentimes, they're churning and burning businesses quick, right? It's every 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I certainly won't compare myself to some of those visionaries that are out there, that all of us kind of follow and see their journeys. But 23 years into this, there definitely have been times where I've wondered, is it my time to step away, right? And I've kind of lost purpose in my vision of what I was doing, right? And there was a time there where that was fairly difficult, and I really entertained whether or not my tenure was over, whether it was time to either hire a CEO and step into a chairman position, or or sell the business and step out of it. And the thing that really helped me find purpose again and re-engage with the business was understanding the meaningful impact that running a business has, not only on your life but on the lives of other people around you in the community, right? Providing gainful employment, providing benefits, providing a cool culture where people like to work and collaborate and have fun with each other, and provide some quality of life for adults, right? Because the reality is if you sit at home all day long as an adult, it's not a very healthy space to be in. You need to be engaged in something productive and that you enjoy. So that's definitely one of the pieces that has about a decade ago that really kind of, as I step back a little bit and ask myself at a time, right? I found new vision and new purpose there, and that's really kind of where I've focused my efforts over the past decade. And I can say that it's brought a lot of fulfillment to me, and hopefully to the people around me as well. So let's shift the conversation here a little bit, Jordan, and let's talk about HR isn't what it was 20 years ago, or 30 or 50 years ago, right? Even 10 years ago. In fact, COVID has changed the face of HR significantly, probably quicker. In my 23-year tenure as a founder CEO, the last 18 months, I've probably seen more change in employing people than I've ever seen in any period before, and in a much shorter timeline. And modern HR is kind of evolving, as product businesses or SaaS businesses, technology type businesses, or even, my type of business, a service, oriented business. Most of us generally end up spending a lot of energy in mapping our customers' journey and getting really granular about, every touch that they have with us, and creating, a very extraordinary type of customer experience. And I would say that I'm seeing an evolution, not that it hasn't been a thing in the past, but specifically, over recent years, I'm seeing an evolution, a transition from traditional HR into how do we create not only an extraordinary customer experience, but an extraordinary employee experience, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me about what you're seeing, and why you think that, if you think, and why you think that potentially this is important.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly a deep question, right? I mean, you said the last 18 months, there's been more change than ever, and I don't think you're wrong whatsoever. I think you're 100% accurate. I mean, even looking at myself and my career and things that have changed for me, and what stage I'm at in life, I got 4 young kids, under 12 years old. And so working from home when I didn't have a home office, I mean, that was a disruption, right? Like, I had to figure that out, because not only was I working from home, but they also sent my kids home from school, right? And so it wasn't just dad and mom at home. It was dad and 4 kids at home, and mom that was trying to refigure out life and how to become a teacher and instruct my kids. And so, I mean, putting that all into factor on top of it, of, COVID hits, can we keep our employees? COVID hits, where should we work from? COVID hits, it's like all these things that just come into play, and it's like a whirlwind of all the different factors that you kind of have to bring in to the picture to understand really how it's changing our lives. And then also, did you get COVID? I got COVID. I was out for a week. I mean, a solid week. I don't think I got out of bed. I mean, there were days where I didn't eat just because I was so out of it and had no, like, my oxygen levels just dropped drastically. But anyways, I mean, the reason I say this is because, like, when that happens and when there was such a huge disruption or a pandemic that occurred, it's going to change the way you do business, right? And so I'm going to throw it back to you. I mean, what did you guys do? I mean, how did that affect your company when you had to, like, did you work from home? Did you have people come to the office, or what did you guys do? Because that, I think it will tie into, like, how we kind of talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, well, we already had a hybrid model prior to COVID, and so when it happened, yeah, we transitioned to 100% work from home for several months. You know, we started getting back in the office. You know, in Utah, you know, Salt Lake, Park City, where our offices are, Utah County, where we have offices. You know, I think that our government officials and our communities did a really good job of managing the situation, and we're a little more flexible. And so I think by like July of last year, we were back to, you know, a partial hybrid model, and we continue to be there. You know, most of us have a day or two a week that we work from home still, and we have, you know, other days we work in offices, right?
Sure.
So it's been an interesting journey for sure, and I think that including our business, you know, you've had to figure out new challenges and variables that's come along. Like, how do you keep a cohesive, collaborative team and culture thriving when you're not sitting in the same space together, right?
Sure.
How do you keep productivity and accountability where it needs to be to deliver the results you need to your clients, right, and to the team?
Yeah.
You know, while making sure that your bottom line pencils out, right? So there's definitely been some challenges, and certainly now you got, you know, I don't remember who the guy is that, you know, that predicted this great resignation thing. Yeah, I could go, you know, break his kneecaps, honestly, just because I think when somebody comes up with a concept like this, that, you know, and people start to think about it and believe it, you know, suddenly there's this you know, this trickle effect that just happens. Whether or not the Great Resignation is or was going to be a real thing, now it is something that you know, we're all having to deal with. And this job market right now, like, honestly, it's really difficult. We're growing quickly as a company. Our product is human capital. Our product is talent, right? And so, and besides that, we aren't a company who is content delivering a mediocre experience to our clientele. We're a company who focuses on a top tier white glove type of a, you know, service and approach. And so finding the right talent that dovetail, you know, into our culture and our methodologies is extremely challenging. And then, you know, competing in the marketplace right now for those people is crazy, man. It is so tough to get talent right now. So, you know,
that you want to bring into your culture, right? Like, you may have people willing to work for you, but are they the right fit? Are they going to service your clients the right way? So no, I'm hearing hiring has been difficult for you. That's kind of the biggest thing I'm hearing from COVID from you. But as we kind of talk about this, I mean, a couple of key things that you pointed out. You guys are fortunate that you already kind of had a hybrid model. Most companies didn't, right?
Yeah.
They were, you know, you show up to the office, work 8, 9 to 5, whatever your hours are. You have a schedule. And when you don't have that office or a place to report to, like, you know, they could have desktops and not laptops. So they had to buy laptops. They had to find a way to be able to do that. They had to completely change their employee handbook, right? Because they didn't have a COVID in their, you know, policy or a work from home policy. Like, that's the big one that we've seen a ton. Like, no one had work from home policies or how to write them or how to structure them to make sure that they could hold their employees accountable, but not go too far to, like, you know, get too deep in it. The other thing is, like, mask policies, right? So all these policies and procedures and things about that people had never thought about of creating or doing as a business owner all came into play, right? And so, like, we got bombarded with, like, we don't have an employee handbook, one, right? Two, like, how do we, like, you know, hold our employees accountable if we haven't ever set the expectations up front in regards to working from home? How do we communicate with them? How do we, if we need, like, emergency contact or anything like that, it's at our office. And if our HR person's at home, how does she go to the office and get those paper files, right? If they're in a filing cabinet. And so these are all the questions that started to accumulate. And like, the great thing is like Eddie was kind of already built for that, right? Like we have electronic signatures. We can send out those policies. We can help you update those kind of things. You know, so there's some really cool stuff that we've gone like cloud-based. So they could work from their cell phone, tablet, computer, and they could get on their HR stuff. So it was those types of questions that really came to play at first. But down the road is exactly what you're discussing, which is hiring, right? Because that's been a drastic change. I mean, you've seen the increase in minimum wage. You've seen, you're in Park City, so wages are probably even higher than where I'm in Draper. But I mean, I drive down 123rd in Draper and I see Arby's is hiring for $14 an hour. McDonald's is hiring for 14, up to 18 if you work at night. You know, Chick-fil-A starting at $16 an hour. And it's like, you're in that space, and that's just restaurants. Now you go to kind of like another level of the seasoned professionals that have gone to college and are used to making $80,000, $120,000 a year. Now they're expecting $140,000, $150,000 a year because they're working from home. They're putting in more sacrifice, and so it's been tough. So how have you guys kind of managed to work around that? I mean, I've talked to hundreds, if not thousands, of clients by now over the past 18 months, and kind of help them trudge through that you know, new world and find ways of doing it. But I'm curious to how you guys have navigated it.
Wait a second, I'm the guy that's supposed to be doing the interview here.
You guys know that.
I'm messing with you. Man, it's been a significant challenge to try to figure out, most definitely. And here's the thing, and this is why I think that, you know, this shift from traditional HR to, you know, extraordinary employee experience is becoming so important. And that is that I felt like pre-COVID, we had a really good culture, you know, like we've always been all about taking really good care of our team members. You know, our culture kind of revolves around this philosophy that we serve three entities, and those are our clientele first and foremost, our team members, and the organization as a whole. And so we've always been, you know, hyper focused on how do we create the best outcomes and best experience for all three of those parties. And you know, doing that for our team, you know, has been really important to us, making sure that they're well rewarded, that they have good incentives and bonuses, that they've got great benefits packages, that they have a cool place to work with cool people that they enjoy, that we have, you know, fun times together. We do quarterly reconnects, and we have, you know, monthly lunch and learns, and, you know, different things, right?
Sure.
And so we'd worked really hard, you know, to try to create this kind of thriving culture that, you know, we felt like was super intact and somewhat impervious, right? And then COVID came along and showed us, like, you have no idea what you're doing. You know, like suddenly it just, you know, it threw everything out the window, and everybody's dealing with so many different things all of a sudden. You know, you got, again, all these professionals who are parents, you know, who are at home now with kids who are trying to study, and they've got these new stresses in their life. And besides that, there's just so much uncertainty in the world, you know, politically, you know, in the middle of COVID, of course, you know, we had, excuse the French, but a political shit show going on in our country, right? And so there was just tons of uncertainty that I think people were just having a hard time dealing with everything going on. And the way they were showing up, you know, in work, it didn't really matter like how great your culture was. You know, you were going to face new challenges that you'd never faced before. And so we've had to kind of take a few steps back and go, okay, well, where were we off on the culture, and what do we have to adapt to now? You know, like, what do we need to try and fix and shift with, you know, here? And that's still an ongoing process. Like I don't know that I have all the answers to that question, but I know that we're working hard to focus, you know, even more on the team members and their experience. You know, you have to also be a productive business that is financially viable, right?
You got to bring in revenue. So
yeah, like, you know, and where our product is human capital, so the human capital has to produce, you know, revenue for us, right? Certainly, there are businesses that, you know, produce widgets or gadgets or clothes, or, you know, and still they need, you know, those team members to produce those items, right, at whatever clip it is, you know, that they have to do it. But it's been very interesting, and you know, we're in this journey right now ourselves of trying to figure out how do we increase the employee experience, how do we improve the employee experience so that we retain the right talent, you know, the people that we really like and want to work with day in and day out, and we attract the right talent, right? You know, tell me a little bit about what you've learned in that process. You know, what do you see other companies doing, and what's working for you at Eddy?
Well, I mean, first of all, I got to comment on what you said. I mean, I think it's pretty powerful to help you understand that I think you're being too hard on yourself, right? I haven't known you for a long time. We've been connected on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and stuff like that. And so I've kind of watched you and traveled with you through your journey through social media. But as I got to know you and I experienced that with you the first time at the networking event we went to, you're just a person that cares, Earl, right? You care about everyone, and you're super inclusive. I think I got invited to like 4 events that day, and half of them were by you, right? Whether it was this podcast, another networking event, going to your band up in Park City. And so I would say props to you to be that type of leader and person that cares about people and that is super inclusive, because I think a lot of people care so much about the top line, like the revenue, right? And they're driving on that force because it is crucial. Like you can't deny it. You got to focus on, you know, keeping your lights on and making sure you have money, but you also have to worry about the people that work for you and show that you truly care and that you're compassionate and that you're not just like talking out your butt, you know, kind of thing. Like, you gotta like be 100% sincere and honest in it. And like props to you, because I would say you have, but I think a lot of companies struggled with the exact opposite, right? They focused on like, how can we get the PPC loans? How can we do this? How can we get this money to keep our company, our lights on? But they didn't worry about the things that you said, like we've got professionals that are at home and have students that are their kids that are trying to learn, and they're trying to like close doors and like they've got to go service the clients. I mean, it was all those kind of things that I think a lot of people didn't focus on up front, and now they're regretting it, right? Because there's a lot of money out in the economy right now. You know, Biden's pumped it in through stimulus checks. There's a ton of different tax credits and things like that you can do right now to get the money. The money's going to come as long as you take care of your employees. And so I've kind of always transitioned it back to like, hey, you know, what's your employee experience like? What, I mean, if we talk about like onboarding, right? You know, a lot of companies are, and this isn't a horrible thing. It's just, it's kind of it's a first impression, right? So if you look at a company that you come and join that first day, and they're like, here's the employee handbook. I'd like you to read this first. Did you bring with you your, you know, social security card, driver's license? I want you to fill out your direct deposit guide. And by day 3, they're still finishing up that stuff and wrapping it up. And reverse that and say, like, you send out those documents. It's all done electronically. They can snap a picture of their driver's license with their cell phone and it uploads right into the system. And then you've collected the data to understand your employees, you know, birthdays, anniversaries, you know, their favorite candy bar, shirt size, and where they love to shop. Now, day 1, they filled out their paperwork and they come in, and Earl says, hey, you know, we have some sweet comedy events coming up. I'd love to invite you to my band as well. Here's your favorite candy bar and a gift card to Nike because that's your favorite place to shop. Can't wait for you to get out there and service our clients. That's the first impression. That's the first experience that someone's going to realize. But people aren't doing that, and they weren't, right? And so kind of transitioning like just from the get-go of like the way you're recruiting your talent and hiring people and the way you're onboarding them can change that culture right from the get-go. You talk about hiring, right? Say I'm Jordan and I just got laid off. I'm looking for a job. Where am I going to go, right? I'm going to go check out Indeed. I may go check out like KSL Classifieds because I'm from Utah. I'm going to go look on these different job boards. I'll hop on LinkedIn, see who's posting. But what if I were to jump on or have someone reach out to me through like social media that's a friend of mine, right? And so if you like had your employees posting those jobs and talking about how great it is in their experience of working at like, you know, Next City or Eddy. And so, you know, they come on, they do a post on LinkedIn and they share, you know, this last week we did this in our company. Last month we went to, you know, Joe's Taqueria together and we all hung out and talked about this and did this and had such a good time. We also crushed it and like had our biggest month ever in the month of July. This is why you should come work for me. And it's from your friend. You're going to recruit talent that way 10 times better than posting a job on LinkedIn that talks about how cool you are, because that circle of influence of your employees is going to be significantly more powerful than just posting a job where anyone can see it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, there's some great nuggets there for sure, man. And honestly, we're finding a lot of our best luck right now in recruiting, utilizing our team member circles of influences, right? People that they know, that they feel like would be the right fit for the culture and the company. And yeah, it's a far easier sell at the moment. I hate to call it a sell, but it is. And that's, the other thing to think about here. And one thing that I always, kind of evangelize here with our team is that when you onboard a client, it's, how you onboard that client. And I realize there's products and services that, you don't need to onboard somebody, right? But if you do need to onboard a client, the way you do that onboarding sets the tone for the entire relationship, right? Yeah. And while you never want to fall short, look, we're all human. Our businesses are not, 100% perfect all the time, right? And sometimes you're going to fall short here and there. But the reality is, if you set the right tone in onboarding, when you fall short, the client is far more likely to be forgiving, right? And certainly, you had some wise advice there, and that is that from that very first touch, and not only, and we're realizing actually in our hiring process, like our hiring process used to be pretty slanted in our favor, like we only want the absolute best of the best, and if you aren't the absolute best of the best, then we're gonna we're gonna make it a little bit difficult for you to to get a job here, right? So that we can see that you're committed and want to go for it. And so now we're adjusting our recruiting processes, right, to try to make it a little bit more about the candidate. And certainly the onboarding process, it's that first impression. And if you make a really good first impression, again, even as employers, as hard as we try, there's just no way to be perfect all the time for everybody. Sooner or later, you're going to have an employee that, that you rub the wrong way for some reason. And I think that if their general experience, and particularly that early experience, has been quality, then they're likely to be far more forgiving and go, well, this was one little situation, right, that I don't love the way it went down, but it is what it is, and we're gonna move forward, yeah, definitely, noticing this significant, again, shift and a rapid shift in the marketplace of what it's taking to acquire and retain talent. I mean, you've actually, really quick, we should say, let's see, Amy Caldwell says, we use and love Eddie HR as well. Chris Rudy says, we are also big fans of Eddie at Skillstruck. Jordan Shumway, Jordan is awesome. Sorry, John Shumway. Jordan is awesome. His motivation really is helping people and improving their lives. So anyways, thanks for the shout outs there, everybody. I do want to, remind the crowd, if you've got any questions that you want to ask Jordan or myself, we're happy to take some questions as well. But what else are you seeing and noticing, in the HR space, in recruiting, hiring, retaining, payroll? What else is happening in the market that it's important for business leaders and entrepreneurs to know about?
Yeah, I mean, I have to comment real quick on your parallel, because it was perfect. You related it to onboarding a new client, right? Like, how much do you care about that client because they're going to bring you revenue, like in the back of your mind, right? You got to think that a little bit. But at the same time, you want it to be a great experience. You have to think that way about your employees too, right? And so I think 5, 10, 20 years ago, people would tout how amazing their company was, their revenue numbers, how cool of a company it was to work for. But they wouldn't really dive into why people all work there, right? They didn't figure out as Simon Sinek says, the why, right? They weren't figuring out the why people wanted certain things. No, it was a great parallel, because in this industry for like payroll and HR, I brought on thousands of clients to payroll and HR systems, and whether it was mine or another one, it really comes down to understanding that company's needs and what they're wanting and what their pain points are, and then onboarding them properly. Because honestly, if we set people up correct here at Eddie HR, Like if we understand their needs and we set up the system to how they want it, guess what? We don't have customer service issues. We don't have them calling in 2 times a week or even 2 times a month, because we've set up the expectations and we, listened to them and helped them, get through all the bugs and set it up properly. And so that's a key thing. Like when I talk about like onboarding, that first impression, it really is the rest of your experience at your career, because that's the first thing you think about it, right? As you move on and stuff like that, there's obviously been big changes within, tax credits. Like right now there's an employee retention credit. And so if nobody's familiar with this, Google it, ERC credit. Phenomenal. If you've taken good care of your employees and you've been retaining them, there are huge tax benefits. I'm talking like a 20, 30 employee company could get $40, $50, $60,000 back in tax credits, which is phenomenal, because they're not tax write-offs, they're tax credits. And so the difference, just so people understand that a tax write-off, say you make $100,000 and you get a write-off $50,000, you don't pay taxes on that $50,000. But that could be depending on your tax bracket, 25% or whatever. But a tax write-off, if you make $100,000 and you owe $25,000 in taxes and you have a $50,000 tax credit, you get $25,000 back. Like it's a big deal. Tax credit between a tax write-off. So just stating that point so people understand how significant that is. But no, I mean, other things we're seeing is just is now and kind of our transition at Eddie is people aren't working from a desk anymore. We're calling them deskless workers, right? They aren't sitting at a computer all day and like, I'm not saying the computer's going away, but if it's not a laptop, it's a tablet, right? And so accommodating to that, to be able to have like awesome apps where people can log in, view all their information, request PTO, check, time and attendance and all that kind of stuff. That's becoming super crucial and relevant in the market now. And I don't think a ton of companies, especially in our space, have really focused on that. They focused on, making sure people get paid and stuff like that. But now we're kind of even honing in on what you're seeing in your business is, how do you retain those employees and keep them happy? Like have all the information at the touch of their fingertips, right? Have one place to log in, view all their information. And so we're dedicated to building over the next, lifetime of our company, right? But over the next 8 to 10 months, you'll see some significant shifts here at Eddie. And I would say in the market as well. I mean, I don't think we're the only ones seeing it, but there'll be some drastic changes in the way people communicate and what apps and things are out there to help manage their employees from afar. So,
yeah, no, that's really, really cool. And actually, just yesterday, we were looking at some stats here internally at Nexus IT, and I was kind of blown away to learn that 80% of the world's workforce is deskless. Like, whether they work at a counter at a restaurant, or maybe they're in manufacturing, or like you said, they're switching from the traditional desktop, laptop to mobile devices, right? And being more mobile and on the run. I have tons of friends that have bought RVs and are RVing full time, or RVing, doing sprinter end full time kind of thing, and working on mobile devices and whatever at this point, so yeah, it's a significant shift. One of the other big shifts that I'm seeing happen, in my lifetime, and particularly certainly my tenure as a leader, is a shift from a focus on compensation to a focus on other factors, right? And what I mean by that is there was a time in the market, like if you were offering the highest pay or close to the highest pay, you could probably get the talent that you wanted, right? In today's world, that's changing really quick. I think we've evolved as human beings. We've evolved as professionals, and people are looking for things like quality of life. They're looking for, is this a culture I want to be a part of? Are these the people that I want to work with? Are these people I want to collaborate with day in and day out? Am I doing something meaningful? Am I doing something that's fulfilling and rewarding for me, right? Am I part of something that is a bigger picture that's making a difference somehow for our clients or our community? There's all these other factors, that are coming into play, over recent years, and particularly, in the last couple of years. Tell me a little bit, what you're seeing in that, right? And, what thoughts you have about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of questions in one. I mean, in reality, I'm seeing that happen a ton, right? Like, I'm from Utah. I'm born and raised here. I've lived in Phoenix and a couple other places, but I'm 40 years old and I've been in Utah probably 37 of them. But so if I relate a lot of statistics to Utah, but I mean, people aren't having kids as often either. And so they're not focusing on families and having 5, 6 kids like they do in Utah. Now it's down to like 2, 3. Sometimes we just want one kid. And because they're focusing on, they want more of a purpose of like, quality of life and how they're going to live that and how they're going to be able to afford to pay for those individuals. That's a big stress too. And so as we kind of look at some factors like that, and then we look at, okay, as long as I'm making enough money, I don't even care if I own a house. I'm fine with renting, right? As long as the market makes sense. And that's another big change. But those factors all tie into like, okay, where am I going to put an office? Am I going to require people from working from home? Am I going to offer benefits like, a trip incentive, or, there's companies out there like 401 Play that you can win instead of putting all your money into a 401k plan, you can put a percentage into like a trip, and then on top of it, your company will match it. So there's like cool things that companies are doing outside of the box, outside of the box thinking, I guess you would say, to make that more enticing. But I think it really goes back down to what we talked about at the beginning of like, of you, Earl, right? You're a person that cares. I think they want to work for someone that like has a purpose and is focused on helping people and that truly care about them. I think that's been a huge drive lately, and that's kind of where people want to go, to that bigger picture and work for something like that. And a paycheck, as long as they have enough to cover their needs, they're happy. But they want to like a purpose and being able to have a good work-life balance and enjoy the things they like to do on top of doing that. So it's a hard mix right now because yes, wages come into factor, especially when you're at the $12 to $15 an hour. But if you're getting into that $75,000, $100,000 range, if someone can live off of 75,000, great. They don't need 120. They want other things, right? Like you're saying. So I have seen a big shift and change to that, and I think it's going to continue. So
yeah, I know that those are big factors as we're competing in the work, in the job market, trying to find talent and then retaining the talent as well. Those have become really big factors and things that I think business leaders have got to be really attuned to. If finding good skilled talent is important to you, you've got to figure out how to find them and how to retain them. Carl Peterson asks an interesting question here, and frankly one that's a little bit difficult. He asks, how do you handle the quality of life for your employees while still providing a white glove service to your customers, especially when the client only wants to talk to one engineer or technician? So really good question here from Carl. I'm going to do my best to answer from our side, Jordan, and then maybe if you've got some thoughts on it. Let's go to the second question here. First of all, Carl, about, what do you do with clients who only want to talk to one individual, right? Who kind of get sold on, this is the person that I like, and I'm sure this happens to you, Jordan. You go sell a new account and those people become enamored with you. Their relationship is with you, and they, you have to pass them off to an internal account manager and, a client delivery services fulfillment team and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, well, wait a second. I just want Jordan. Like, Jordan's my guy, and certainly as we've grown as an organization, that's something we've had to learn and deal with. Like, there was a time when, when my brother and I founded the business, we were doing most, if not all, of the service until we were able to hire people. And for a long time, it was, I don't want to deal with, employees. I want to deal with, the owners of the business, right? And that's something we had to figure out. And for us, I think we had to figure out how to nail our culture and the philosophies around how we service our clientele so that the experience was consistent across the board, and not only that, when you nail a culture, you also have to find the right people that fit into that culture. Yes, you can teach mindset and you can teach skills and you can teach knowledge. But if you can find the people who already kind of espouse a lot of the same beliefs that you have about how your client should be served, it's so much easier and so much quicker, right? And so for us, it's been definitely about creating a uniform experience, no matter, no matter what engineer or technician that, that a client deals with, they're always going to have a quality experience. And you also have to make sure that, in our business, that those engineers know all of the client environments well enough, that they know how to deal with them, that they have at their fingertips, the information they need to be efficient and proficient within those environments, within seconds or minutes. And so cross-training on client environments, on nuances within client accounts, making sure that you have robust documentation databases and stuff like that. Those are all really important things to our team. And then just being collaborative, I love hanging out in our office, because our team, that sits in the tech bullpens and stuff, they're constantly talking with each other all day long. Like, can you hear me? You can see, I see, you've got an unexpected visitor. The other thing that, that Carl asked here is, how are you dealing with quality of life while still providing a white glove experience? And that's a question that we're still working on answering, within our business, Carl. I think for us, first of all, again, it's about finding and retaining the right talent that doesn't want to deliver anything mediocre. That, for us, we have to find people that want to be top tier, that they only want to be like, they want to be the 1998 and 97 and 98 Chicago Bulls, right? They want to be on that team, right? And that's what we've tried to create, is like, we're this team that is high performing, that always gets the job done, that always gets it done well. And so we go after the professionals that want to be part of that type of team, that want to deliver that day in and day out. And then for us, and this is a shift, like, in IT, in infrastructure, and cybersecurity, the norm throughout the entire, industry for the past, 30, 40 years is that IT personnel are on call 24/7, 365. And we ran into a significant problem with that 5 or 6 years ago, where our people were getting burnt out. Like, our clients' needs had escalated after hours and over weekends. And, we didn't really know what was happening, because we couldn't see a lot of it until, some employees came to us and said, like, I'm working 90 hours a week. This isn't going to work. And so we had to look at it, and we ended up creating swing shifts and weekend shifts and everything, in order to, fill our client needs, to make sure that, our team members work a normal 40-hour week for the most part, right? That they're not putting in, 60 hours a week, and so they don't have the time for the family, and they don't have time to go to the jazz game or to go, mountain biking or whatever. So for us, and while it's been more expensive, to procure that talent and pay for those different shifts, it's been about, making sure that we create a sustainable model that's not only sustainable for the business, but for our team members as well. So we got a minute and a half or so left here, Jordan. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess my 2 cents on it would be twofold. So one is the vision, right? So like, as the CEO of the company, you're the visionary. You're creating that culture. You're creating that vision of what not only your employees are going to experience, but also your clients, right? Like, that's your job. And so as you do that, people are going to feed off you and become more like you, and they're going to adapt to your personality and kind of add their own twist to it. And so we always say, like, hire great people and try not to piss them off. But as you do that and kind of build out your vision and you bring in those people, I would see the most important part is setting those right expectations, right? You've got to set the expectations up front of how things are going to function, how they're going to work. Sure, Jordan might be okay or great at bringing people on to payroll and HR systems, but I don't service them, right? That's not my job. I'm not good at it. Your company would fail if I was running your payroll and help you do that all. That's not my skill set, right? I'm good at, like, breaking down, from hire to fire, understanding, like, your workflows, helping you fix those, making them smoother, helping you talk about culture and building things up and making your company a better company. But I'm not good at servicing on the back end. That's what I've got a phenomenal team for. And so I set those expectations up front, and I sell the crap out of my team. I mean, I talk about them and brag about them for more than I would ever talk about myself. and how they're going to help them, and how they're going to be the ones to hold their hand and build them out and take care of them. I think that really changes the way that it does that. And so vision and set expectations would be my 2 cents on that, though.
I think those are really great, pieces of advice there, and 100% accurate. So we're out of time. I want to thank everybody again for joining us for this hour. I know I've had a ton of fun talking with Jordan. Thank you for all the useful insights. I know this has been very helpful just to talk through, and certainly got a lot of new ideas that I've taken notes on and stuff. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Jordan, for being my guest for this hour.
Thank you. I thought an hour was going to be a long time, but it went by quick, man. It was fun chatting with you.
It goes by really fast. Keep an eye out. We've got some more segments of TechBeat coming up in the coming weeks. So we'll see you all soon.
Take care, guys.